Elliot Vance always believed that nothing exciting ever happened on Terra 7, unless you counted his toaster drone catching fire again. The desert nights were silent, the stars hung like cold spectators, and his shed buzzed with the comforting chaos of half-finished inventions. He had just convinced his home AI beta that socks didn't need to be sorted by emotional color tone when the explosion echoed through the canyon. At first, he thought it was one of his neighbor's hover tractors misfiring again. But then came the light, bright, electric blue, flickering against the sand like a dying star. Curiosity and bad judgment joined hands in his brain, and before he knew it, he was stumbling into the wind with a flashlight and a wrench, because clearly, that was what one needed to face alien-grade explosions. Half buried in debris, he found her. Metal gleamed beneath the dust, sleek armor cracked open to reveal soft, pale skin underneath. Her long silver hair was tangled in wires, and her pointed ears caught the moonlight in a way that didn't look remotely human. For a moment, Elliot just stared, wondering if she'd crawled out of one of his sci-fi comics. Then she groaned, mechanically, almost like a computer booting up, and he jumped 3 feet in the air, dropping his wrench right onto his foot. She was alive, or operational, he couldn't tell which. Her one visible eye flickered with a dim blue glow locking onto him. "Do not touch system core," she rasped. Elliot blinked. "I wasn't planning to. I was just admiring your structural integrity." The eye dimmed and she went still again. He sighed, rubbing his foot. "Yep, definitely my type, half dead and way out of my league." So, like any rational man who owned exactly 0 weapons but plenty of duct tape, he did the only thing that made sense. He dragged the broken cyborg back to his shed and hoped his life insurance covered extraterrestrial encounters. Elliot spent the next morning surrounded by a chaotic jungle of wires, soldering irons, and the faint smell of burnt circuits. Kara, because he had decided to give her a name after realizing half-alive metal lady was unwieldy, lay on a reinforced workbench, blinking intermittently like a stubborn computer booting in safe mode. Her one working arm twitched, knocking over a jar of micro-screws, which rolled across the floor like tiny, metallic tumbleweeds. Elliot groaned and chased them down, muttering, "I should have majored in intergalactic engineering instead of human robotics." Beta, hovering nearby, commented dryly, statistically, that would not have helped your social awkwardness. Elliot shot at a look and said, "You're not helping." When she finally spoke, her voice was sharp, clipped, military. "Status report. Are we under threat?" Elliot blinked at her, still holding a micro-screw. No, unless you count my coffee maker, which staged a revolt this morning." Kara tilted her head, long ears catching the fluorescent light. "You find humor in human inefficiency?" she asked. Elliot shrugged, grinning. "It's either that or crying in my sock drawer." Over the next 2 days, Elliot worked feverishly, patching circuits and improvising parts from scavenged drone components. Kara, in turn, observed him with a mixture of curiosity and mild irritation, occasionally making deadpan comments like, "That is an inefficient solder joint." Elliot responded with a flourish of sarcasm. "Thanks, I'll make sure to engrave that on my tombstone. Here lies the inefficient solderer." By the time her systems fully rebooted, Kara had managed to balance her commanding presence with quiet amusement at his endless human quirks. She revealed she was a captain from the Illyrian Dominion, a civilization blending flesh and machine, tasked with missions Elliot couldn't begin to comprehend. And yet, somehow, in that dusty shed filled with sparks, humor, and awkward small talk, the beginnings of an improbable partnership and a fragile trust had begun to take root. Word of Elliot's mysterious guest spread faster than a solar flare through the small settlement. Curious scavengers, rogue tech dealers, and one overeager interstellar inspector appeared at his gate, all demanding answers that Elliot was spectacularly unprepared to give. "She's a prototype toaster," he mumbled once to a particularly suspicious man, who squinted and walked away muttering about illegal robotics. Kara, now upright and almost fully functional, observed the chaos with thinly veiled amusement. "Your social tactics are primitive," she said, watching him fumble with holographic decoys and blinking warning lights. Elliot waved a hand. "Primitive works better when combined with panic and duct tape." Beta, hovering beside him, beeped disapprovingly. "Statistical probability suggests you will fail." Elliot shot at a grin. "And yet here I am, surviving another day." When a scavenger tried to peek under the holographic tarp concealing Kara, she let out a mechanical hum that sounded suspiciously like a laugh. Elliot nearly dropped a wrench. "That's terrifyingly effective," he said, ducking behind a stack of spare circuit boards. Kara tilted her head, one eyebrow arcing in perfect precision. "I find humor in your incompetence," she replied, voice dripping with amused condescension. Elliot snorted. "I'll take that as a compliment." Meanwhile, he worked tirelessly on repairing her ship's damaged core, piecing together alien tech with more hope than skill. Kara hovered nearby, commenting dryly on his methods. That connection should not conduct energy, yet somehow it does. Elliot smiled sheepishly. "It's my signature style, improvised genius with a hint of chaos." By the end of the day, Elliot had patched enough systems to keep her operational, though not flight-ready. The scavengers had been repelled by clever holographic illusions, malfunctioning drones, and one particularly well-aimed tomato from Elliot's ruined garden. Kara's laughter, half metallic, half human, echoed through the shed, and Elliot realized that despite the danger, the absurdity of the situation made it feel almost fun. In that strange alliance of sparks, humor, and alien technology, a bond was forming, delicate yet unbreakable. Late one night, a faint blue pulse flickered from Kara's chest panel. Elliot, half asleep in his chair, jolted upright. "Beta, what is that blinking thing? Did the coffee maker start another rebellion?" The AI sighed. "No. That is a distress beacon. Someone is homing in on her location." Elliot's stomach sank. "Oh great, intergalactic assassins, just what I needed right after my toast burned." Kara's long ears twitched. "They are called the Iron Legion," she said calmly, as if discussing a slightly inconvenient grocery delivery. "They consider compassion a flaw. I cannot allow you to be dragged into this." Elliot blinked. "Yeah, sure. Because leaving my shed unprotected is a good plan. Not like I've got 2 cats and a pile of scrap metal." She began preparing to leave, accessing her remaining mobility systems. Elliot, refusing to let her go, scrambled after her, waving a wrench like a flag of diplomacy. "Hey, you can't just jet off into interstellar civil war and leave me with all these wires." Kara paused, one mechanical eyebrow raised. "You intend to accompany me?" she asked, voice edged with disbelief. Elliot nodded vigorously. "Absolutely. I mean, statistically, we'll both die, but we'll die in style." As the first Legion drones appeared over the horizon, Elliot's improvised defense systems powered on, sparks flying, lasers misfiring, and Beta shrieking calculations at impossible speeds. Kara stepped into action, analyzing Elliot's chaotic barricade with a mixture of amusement and tactical curiosity. "This is remarkably inefficient," she observed. Elliot grinned through a cloud of smoke. "And yet somehow effective." In the ensuing chaos of flashing lights, malfunctioning drones, and a garden destroyed by stray plasma bolts, the pair managed to survive the initial Legion assault. By the time the dust settled, Elliot was singed, exhausted, and exhilarated, while Kara regarded him with something like grudging admiration. For the first time, she allowed herself a faint, almost human smile, realizing that perhaps, just perhaps, chaos and compassion could coexist, and even save lives. Days later, the sky above Terra 7 split open with a roar that made Elliot's hair stand on end. A massive shadow descended, metal panels gleaming like liquid silver. His shed, already leaning precariously from the previous skirmish, shuddered as the warship's landing struts crushed his tomato garden into an unrecognizable pulp. Elliot staggered backward, clutching a wrench for moral support. "Yep, Definitely out of my league, he muttered. The ramp descended with a hiss, and there she was, Kara in full Illyrian armor, long ears catching the sunlight, eyes scanning his tiny backyard as though it were an entire battlefield. Elliot tried to look heroic, standing on a pile of crushed garden debris, but mostly he just looked like he'd survived a small tornado. Kara's expression softened slightly, a mixture of amusement and acknowledgement. "I have returned," she said, voice calm but commanding. Elliot swallowed. "And my life insurance didn't cover this," he said quietly. She stepped closer, the armor's servos whirring softly, and Elliot noticed subtle human traces beneath the machine. Tiny scars, faint smiles, moments of vulnerability hidden behind steel. "I did not come to punish you for your incompetence," she said. "I came to offer you a choice. Stay here or leave with me and see the stars beyond your little desert." Elliot glanced at his ruined shed, the crushed tomatoes, and his half-functioning drones. "Well," he said, scratching the back of his neck, "the stars sound nice, but does it come with free coffee?" Kara allowed a faint, mechanical chuckle. "I cannot guarantee caffeine, but adventure is included." Elliot grinned, realizing that his ordinary, quiet life was about to explode into something extraordinary. Beta hovered nearby, calculating the odds. "Statistical probability of survival is low," it warned. Elliot waved. "Then we'll make our own odds." For the first time, he felt the exhilarating mix of fear, hope, and ridiculousness that only the start of a real adventure could bring. Elliot felt the hum of the warship beneath his feet, vibrations running through the soles of his boots as if the entire vessel had a heartbeat. Stars stretched into streaks of light outside the reinforced windows, wormholes twisting reality like taffy, and somewhere deep in the ship, Kara's systems purred in quiet, disciplined rhythm. Elliot clutched the railing, marveling and muttering, "I swear, one day someone's going to pay me for this." Kara's long ears twitched as she observed him navigating the narrow corridors with all the grace of a startled cat. "You are remarkably clumsy," she commented, voice flat but carrying a note of amusement. Elliot grinned, leaning against a bulkhead. "Clumsy, yes, but charming in a hopelessly human sort of way." Kara allowed a flicker of what might have been a smile, if circuits could smile. Days blurred into hyperspace jumps and interstellar traffic negotiations. Elliot found himself introduced to alien bureaucrats who demanded empathy permits before granting docking clearance, while Kara explained, with patience worn thin by her usual precision, that Terran humor was curiously illogical yet oddly effective. He spent hours showing her the subtle joys of Earth movies, bad coffee, and the art of accidental chaos, which she initially scoffed at, but eventually began to appreciate in her own cybernetic way. During long nights, the hum of engines became a lullaby, and Elliot saw glimpses of Kara's buried humanity, quiet moments when she stared at the stars, seemingly lost in memories, her mechanical form softened by starlight. And in return, he discovered the strength beneath her armor, a being shaped by duty, war, and an unspoken longing for something more. In the endless expanse of space, amid absurd bureaucrats, strange alien cuisines, and malfunctioning holograms, an extraordinary bond was growing, one that bridged the fragile gap between human folly and cybernetic precision, humor and duty, chaos and order. The warning klaxons blared through the ship, throwing Elliot into an awkward crouch behind a console. Beta